Hello, my dear listener. Welcome back to Code Your English. I'm really glad you're here with me today. I know life gets busy, and you probably have many things to do, so thank you for choosing to spend this time learning and growing. Think of this moment as a small break from the noise of the world. Just you, your thoughts, and a calm voice guiding you step by step. That's the spirit of this podcast. Learning English while learning about yourself, your habits, and your mindset. And today, we're diving into a topic that can truly change the rhythm of your days. We're talking about doing the hard things first, and this idea is much more powerful than it sounds. Most of us wake up and try to start the day slowly. We reach for our phone, check messages, look at social media, or do something easy that doesn't require much effort. It feels safe, comfortable, and familiar. But the problem is that the difficult thing, the thing we really need to do, stays in the back of our mind all day long. It becomes a quiet stress. It takes energy, even when we're not doing it. And many times, we finish the day with regret because we avoided what truly mattered. That's why doing the hard things first is so important. It's about creating a sense of clarity and freedom before the day becomes complicated. When you start with something difficult, you're not punishing yourself. You're actually giving yourself a gift. You're giving yourself the chance to feel proud early in the day. You're giving your mind a message that says, "I can handle challenges." And this message slowly builds confidence over time. The difficult task might be studying English, sending an important email, having a serious conversation, planning your day, or working on a goal you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, doing it early creates momentum. And once you have momentum, everything else feels lighter, easier, and more manageable. This idea works because our energy and focus are strongest in the morning. Later in the day, life becomes noisy. People need us, problems appear, emotions change, and our motivation drops. So if we leave the hard things for later, they often never happen. But if we face them early, we take control. We feel more free, and we start to trust ourselves more. That trust is the foundation of discipline, confidence, and personal growth. Before we continue, I want to ask you a simple question, one that can help you understand your daily habits on a deeper level. Think about this honestly. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you choose to do? And why? Do you choose comfort? Do you choose distraction? Or do you choose progress? There's no judgment here. This is just an honest moment between you and yourself. As we move forward in today's episode, stay open, relaxed, and curious. Here on Code Your English, we explore ideas in a calm and supportive way, so you can improve your English while building a stronger, more intentional life. And today, we're taking the first step toward one of the most powerful habits you can ever build. What does do the hard things first mean? When we talk about the idea of doing the hard things first, we are not talking about forcing yourself to suffer or choosing pain over comfort. The idea is actually much simpler and much more practical. It means choosing the task that feels challenging, uncomfortable, or mentally heavy before doing the easier things that give quick satisfaction. In other words, you start your day or your work session with the thing you are most likely to avoid. This could be something you don't like, something you fear, or something that just feels too big. But by doing it first, you free your mind, your time, and your energy for the rest of the day. Hard things look different for each person. For some people, the difficult task might be replying to an important email, or making a phone call they have been avoiding. For others, it might be sitting down to study English after a long day, or starting a workout when they feel tired, Some people find it hard to organize their finances, pay bills, or complete uncomfortable paperwork. And for many adults, the hardest tasks are often emotional ones, like asking for help, saying no when needed, or having a difficult conversation with a colleague or family member. These tasks do not only take time, they also take courage and mental energy. That's why doing them first can make such a big difference. Even though we know these tasks are important, we often avoid them. This is a very human behavior. We avoid hard things for many reasons. One reason is fear. Fear of failure, fear of making a mistake, or fear of discomfort. Another reason is self-doubt. When a task feels difficult, we may think we are not skilled enough or smart enough to handle it. Sometimes we avoid hard things because we want to feel ready, but readiness rarely arrives. And quite often, we avoid difficult tasks simply because they require more energy and focus, and our brain naturally prefers shortcuts, pleasure, or easy wins. There is also something called task anxiety, which means the more we avoid a task, the bigger and scarier it becomes in our mind. A small email starts to feel like a huge mountain. A short assignment turns into a heavy burden. A 10-minute task feels like a 2-hour challenge. Our mind exaggerates the difficulty, and this exaggeration makes avoidance stronger. Before we realize it, we enter a cycle. Avoiding the task makes us stressed, and stress makes the task even harder to face. The idea of doing the hard things first helps break this cycle. When we tackle the difficult task early, before we get tired or distracted, we face it with more strength. Our mind is fresh. Our willpower is stronger. And the moment we complete that task, we feel a sense of relief and confidence that stays with us for the rest of the day. That feeling is powerful. It reminds us that we are capable, that we can do hard things, and that many of our fears are mental walls rather than real obstacles. Doing the hard things first does not mean doing everything perfectly. It does not mean you never struggle again. It simply means choosing your first step wisely. When we start our day with the easy things, checking messages, scrolling on the phone, or doing small tasks, we quickly lose energy and motivation. But when we begin with something meaningful and challenging, we create momentum. We build discipline. And discipline is what helps us grow, both in our daily routines and in our long-term goals. So when you hear the phrase, "do the hard things first," think of it as a gentle guide, not a strict rule. It is a reminder that facing difficulty early gives you strength for the rest of the day. It frees your mind, it reduces stress, and it teaches you that the tasks you fear are often much smaller than they seem. Every time you choose the hard task first, you not only finish something important, you also train your mindset, your courage, and your confidence. Why should we do the hard things first? When we ask, why should we do the hard things first? The answer is simple, but the impact is powerful. Doing the hard things first is not just a productivity trick. It is a way to shape your day and even your mindset. When you choose to start with the most difficult task, you send a message to yourself. I am in control. Not my fear, not my excuses, not my stress. This choice strengthens the way you think and act, and it influences the quality of your entire day. One of the biggest reasons to do hard things first is that we have more energy in the morning. Our mental battery is fresh, our focus is stronger, our decision-making is clearer. Later in the day, we feel tired, distracted, or emotionally drained. When we try to do hard tasks in the afternoon or evening, they feel twice as difficult. But in the morning, before the world gets noisy, we have a small window of high-quality energy. Using that time on something meaningful makes a huge difference. Even if the task takes only 20 or 30 minutes, doing it early gives you a feeling of progress before the day even begins. Another important reason is that doing hard tasks first reduces stress. When we avoid difficult things, they stay in the back of our minds like a quiet alarm. We keep thinking about them, worrying about them, and imagining the worst-case scenario. This silent stress can follow us through the day, even when we are doing other activities. But the moment we complete the hard task, that pressure disappears. It feels as if a heavy weight has been lifted from your shoulders. You breathe easier. Your mind feels clearer. And everything else on your to-do list seems lighter and more doable. Completing hard tasks early also leads to better results. When your mind is fresh, you think more clearly, make fewer mistakes, and work with more creativity and confidence. This is especially true for tasks that need problem-solving or focus, like writing an important email, preparing a presentation, studying English, or making a difficult decision. When you work on these tasks late in the day, you may rush, get distracted, or feel negative. But when you work on them early, you give them your best attention. And good attention usually creates good results. Another strong benefit is that doing the hard things first builds self-discipline. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you choose a challenging task over something easy, you build inner strength. You teach your mind that comfort is not the priority. Progress is. And with time, you begin to trust yourself more. You learn that even when something feels uncomfortable, you can still take action. This kind of self-discipline helps in every area of life: work, relationships, health, learning English, and personal goals. Sometimes, the best way to understand this idea is through short, simple examples. Imagine a person who has a difficult phone call to make. If they make that call first thing in the morning, the fear disappears quickly, and the rest of their day feels lighter. But if they avoid the call, the stress stays with them all day. Or think about someone who needs to study English but keeps delaying it. If they study for even 20 minutes in the morning, they feel proud and motivated, but if they wait until the evening, they often feel too tired to start. Another example is exercise. A short morning workout can boost energy for the whole day, but waiting until late evening often leads to skipping it completely. These small examples show a simple truth. The hard tasks are not just tasks. They affect how we feel, think, and move through the day. When we do them first, they lose their power to scare us. They become smaller, easier, and less stressful. And we become stronger, calmer, and more confident. So when you hear the advice, do the hard things first, remember that it is not about being perfect. It is about giving yourself the best chance to grow and succeed. It is about creating days that feel meaningful instead of stressful. And it is about choosing the life you want, one difficult step at a time. The science behind it. Simple version. When we talk about doing the hard things first, it is not just good advice. It is also supported by basic science. You don't need to be a scientist to understand it. The idea is actually very simple. Our willpower and mental energy are strongest early in the day, and they slowly decrease as the hours pass. This is why some tasks feel easy at 8 a.m., but almost impossible at 8 p.m., even if the task is exactly the same. It is not your fault. It is simply how the human brain works. Every morning, when we wake up, our brain has a fresh supply of mental energy. Think of it like a battery that starts at 100%. With this full battery, we can make better decisions, resist distractions, handle stress, and face difficult tasks with more confidence. But as we go through the day, we use this energy little by little in conversations, at work, when solving problems, or even when deciding what to eat. Each decision, even small ones, uses a bit of our mental battery. This is why we sometimes feel tired, even when we have not done anything physically hard. Willpower works in a similar way. Willpower is our ability to push ourselves, stay disciplined, and do things we may not feel like doing. In the morning, when our willpower is fresh, we have more strength to face tasks that require focus or courage. But as the day goes on, willpower becomes weaker. This is why people often say, "I'll do it later." But when later comes, they feel tired, stressed, or unmotivated. The task hasn't changed, only the level of willpower has. This idea becomes clearer when we think about mental fatigue. Mental fatigue is the tired feeling your mind gets after too many decisions or too much thinking. It makes your brain slower and less motivated. Even simple things begin to feel heavier. When mental fatigue appears, hard tasks look too big, and easy tasks look more attractive. That is when we start scrolling through our phones, avoiding responsibilities, or telling ourselves we will do the important thing tomorrow. But tomorrow brings the same pattern unless we change how we start our day. A simple example can make this idea clearer. Imagine you need to write an important email. If you try to write it early in the morning, you sit down, you think clearly, and the words come naturally. It may take 10 or 15 minutes. But if you wait until late afternoon, after work, after dealing with problems, after answering messages, that same email suddenly feels heavy. You read it again and again. You doubt your words. You tell yourself, "Maybe I should write this tomorrow." The task did not grow. Your energy simply dropped. Another example is studying English. In the morning, your mind is fresh, and learning feels easier and more enjoyable. New words enter your memory faster. You feel more focused. But at night, after a long day of responsibilities, studying feels like climbing a mountain. Many learners think studying is difficult because they are not smart enough. But often it is just that they are studying at a time when their brain is already tired. Even athletes experience this. Many of them train early in the morning because the mind is sharp and the body is more responsive. They know that discipline is easier when the brain is full of energy. This is the same for work, learning, personal goals, and everyday life. When we use our strongest energy on the hardest tasks, we get better results with less stress. So the science is simple. Do the hard things first because your brain works better early. Your willpower is stronger. Your mental battery is full. And when you use that early strength for important tasks, everything feels easier. You finish faster, you feel more confident, and you carry less stress into the rest of your day. Doing the hard things first is not just a habit. It is a smart way to work with your brain instead of against it. When you understand this, you begin to see why mornings are powerful, why postponing makes life harder, and why tackling the big task early can change the whole direction of your day. Why we avoid hard things. Psychology plus reflection. Now that we've talked about why doing the hard things first can be so powerful, let's take a moment to understand why we avoid those hard things in the first place. This part is important because when we know the reasons behind our behavior, it becomes much easier to change it. And honestly, avoiding difficult tasks is something almost every adult experiences, no matter their job, age, or background. So, if you struggle with this, you are not alone at all. It's a completely human experience. One of the biggest reasons we avoid difficult tasks is procrastination. Procrastination is not just being lazy. It's usually our mind trying to protect us from something uncomfortable. When a task feels big or heavy, our brain immediately wants to push it away. It tells us, do it later. You're not ready. Or, you'll be in a better mood tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and we repeat the same story. Procrastination feels good for a moment because it removes stress temporarily. But later, it creates even more stress. It's like pushing a problem under the carpet. You don't see it for a while, but it's still there. Another strong reason is fear. Many hard tasks involve some kind of risk. Maybe the risk of failing, the risk of making a mistake, or even the risk of being judged by others. Fear doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and subtle. For example, you might delay sending an important email because you're afraid the answer will be no. Or you might avoid speaking English with someone because you fear they won't understand you. Fear can hold us back without us even noticing. And it often hides behind excuses like, I'm too busy, or I'll do it later. Then there's perfectionism, which affects many people more than they realize. Perfectionism makes us believe that everything we do must be perfect. Or there's no point doing it at all. This mindset is dangerous because perfection is impossible. It makes us freeze before we even start. For example, someone might avoid studying English because they feel embarrassed about making mistakes. Someone else might delay starting a fitness routine because they think they must be perfect from day one. Perfectionism turns simple actions into impossible missions, and it steals our courage to try. A fourth and very common reason is self-doubt. This is the quiet voice inside us that whispers, maybe you can't do this. Maybe you're not good enough. Or maybe this is too hard for you. Many adults deal with self-doubt, even successful ones. It's completely normal, but it becomes a problem when we believe it too much. Self-doubt makes us avoid challenges because challenges test our abilities. And sometimes we're afraid to see what we're capable of or not capable of. But the truth is, you can only discover your strength by facing the things you've been avoiding. These 4 reasons, procrastination, fear, perfectionism, and self-doubt, often work together. They create a circle that keeps us stuck. The more we avoid something, the bigger it feels. The bigger it feels, the more fear and doubt we experience. And the more fear we feel, the harder it is to start. This is why some tasks live in our minds for days, weeks, or even months, even though the actual task might only take a short amount of time. And that brings us to a question I want you to think about. It's a simple question, but it's also very powerful, because almost everyone has experienced this moment in their life. Have you ever avoided something for days and then realized it only took 10 minutes? Maybe it was replying to a message. Maybe it was cleaning a small corner of your room. Maybe it was studying a short English lesson. We often spend more time worrying about the task than actually doing it. So as we move forward, keep this thought in mind. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling connected to the task. But feelings pass, and you are stronger than the feelings you fear. The mindset shift. Hard first, easy later. Now that we understand why we usually avoid the difficult things in our lives, let's talk about a powerful mindset shift. The idea of hard first, easy later. This mindset is not about working harder or making your life more difficult. It's about learning to use your time, your focus, and your energy in a smarter, more effective way. When you choose to do the hardest task first, you're not just completing something important. You're creating a mental state that supports you for the rest of the day. A lot of people use the phrase, eat the frog, to describe this idea. It sounds strange, but the meaning is simple. if you had to eat a frog today, it's better to do it first thing in the morning. After that, everything else feels easy in comparison. Of course, you don't have to actually eat a frog. It's just a metaphor. The frog represents the task you don't want to do, the one that feels uncomfortable, scary, or heavy. When you deal with that task early, you free your mind from worry. You stop thinking about it again and again. You don't carry it around like a heavy backpack for the rest of the day. Another helpful metaphor is thinking about your tasks like lifting weights in the gym. Imagine that the hardest weight is waiting for you. If you lift it at the beginning while your body is strong and fresh, you can handle it. But if you wait until the end of your workout, when you're tired and low on energy, the same weight feels twice as heavy. Your daily life works the same way. In the morning, your mental energy is fuller, your focus is stronger, your willpower is higher. But as the day continues, you slowly lose energy because you deal with many decisions, distractions, and responsibilities. That's why the hard things feel too big at the end of the day, but possible in the morning. This mindset shift also creates mental clarity. When you complete a difficult task early, your mind becomes lighter and more open. You stop thinking, "I still need to do that," or "I'll do it later." Instead, you feel a sense of relief and control. This clarity makes your other tasks easier because your brain is not busy worrying. It's similar to cleaning a dirty desk before working. Once the desk is clean, you can focus better. Doing the hard thing first is like cleaning your mental desk. It removes the noise inside your head. Another important part of this mindset shift is understanding how momentum works. Momentum is the feeling of movement and progress. When you start your day with an easy task, your energy stays low. But when you start with something difficult, your brain wakes up and becomes more alert. You feel proud, and that pride becomes motivation. It's like pushing a heavy door. The first push is the hardest, but once it starts moving, it becomes easier to keep going. The hard task is that first push. Now, I want to bring this idea into your own life. Think about your mornings for a moment. What does the first hour of your day look like? Do you reach for your phone? Do you check messages? Do you start slowly because you feel tired or unmotivated? Or do you sometimes jump into something important right away? Reflect on how your mornings usually feel. Do they feel rushed, calm, stressful, or peaceful? And how would your day change if you decided to start with something meaningful, even if it was a little difficult? You don't have to change everything at once. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. or follow a strict routine. The mindset shift is simple. Choose one important task and face it early. It might take only 10 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, but the effect on your mindset can be much bigger. When you choose hard first, you choose strength over comfort. You choose growth over avoidance. And slowly, this choice becomes a habit that shapes your confidence and your future. So take a moment and ask yourself, if you tried this mindset tomorrow, what would your frog be? And how would your day feel if you handled it first? How to start doing the hard things first. Starting to do the hard things first can feel difficult at the beginning, but a clear step-by-step approach makes it much easier. The first step is simple. Choose your hardest task. Look at your to-do list and pick the one item you keep avoiding, the task that causes the most worry or takes the most courage. It might be sending a difficult email, preparing for a meeting, studying a new grammar topic, or starting a workout plan. Naming that task clearly helps your mind stop circling around many things and focus on one important action. Once you have chosen the hardest task, break it into small steps. Big tasks feel scary because they look like one giant job. But any large task can be divided into little actions that are easy to start. For example, if your hard task is prepare a presentation, the small steps could be 1. Choose the topic. 2. Write 3 main points. 3. Create 1 slide. 4. Practice the first 2 minutes. If your hard task is study English, break it down. 1. Open the lesson. 2. Read 1 paragraph. 3. Repeat 5 new words. 4. Do 1 short exercise. Small steps create momentum because they are fast and clear. After you break the task down, remove distractions. Distractions make the hard thing feel even harder. Create a quiet space or a clear working time. Put your phone in another room, close unused browser tabs, and tell others when you need focus. Even small changes help. Silence notifications, turn off background TV, or use headphones if noise is a problem. When your environment supports focus, your short steps become easy to complete, and the work moves forward faster than you expect. Next, set a timer for a fixed period. The timer is a powerful tool because it gives your brain a clear limit. Use the 10-minute rule if you want something very small, or try 20 to 30 minutes for deeper work. When the timer starts, commit to working only on the small step you chose. This reduces the pressure of doing it perfectly and replaces it with just keep going until the timer stops. For example, set a 20-minute timer to write the first paragraph of an email or to study vocabulary. When the timer ends, you can decide to continue or take a short break. As you work, use simple tools to keep progress visible. Make a checklist of the small steps and tick them off as you finish. Seeing the list shrink is motivating and gives you a clear record of achievement. If you like, write a short note about what you completed and how it felt. These small records build confidence, and they show you that starting leads to real progress. Reward yourself after completing a step or the whole task. Rewards do not need to be big. A small walk, a cup of tea, 5 minutes of your favorite music, or a short conversation with a friend are enough rewards. Help your brain link effort with pleasure. When your mind learns that doing hard things leads to good feelings, it becomes easier to start the next time. Finally, repeat this process regularly and be kind to yourself. Not every attempt will be perfect, and that is okay. The goal is progress, not perfection. Over time, choosing one hard task, breaking it down, removing distractions, timing your work, and celebrating small wins will turn into a habit. That habit changes how you use your energy and builds real confidence. Try this method tomorrow morning with one small task and notice how your day feels lighter afterward. Emotional benefits: confidence, freedom, and momentum. Now let's talk about the emotional benefits of doing the hard things first, because this part is just as important as the practical steps. When you complete a hard task early in the day, you don't only get the job done, you also change the way you feel about yourself. Finishing something difficult gives you a strong sense of relief. It feels like a weight has been lifted from your mind. For example, imagine you wake up, and the first thing you do is study for your exam or finish an important work task. After you complete it, the whole day feels lighter. You don't walk around with stress in your head anymore. You feel free, relaxed, and more in control of your time. This also builds real confidence. Confidence doesn't come from talking about goals. It comes from taking action, especially when the action is not easy. Every time you start with a difficult task instead of avoiding it, you show yourself that you are capable and responsible. This creates self-trust. You begin to believe your own words, If you say, "I will do it," your mind knows you will actually do it. This kind of self-trust grows slowly, but once it becomes strong, it changes how you act in every area of your life. You become someone who doesn't run away from challenges, but meets them with calm energy. Doing the hard things first also creates something very powerful called momentum. Momentum is the feeling of progress that makes you want to keep going. When you finish a difficult task early, your brain gets a small victory. This victory gives you energy to continue working. It becomes easier to complete the next task, even if it is not exciting. You start to feel like you are moving forward, like your day has a clear direction. Many people find that once they begin with something tough, the rest of the day becomes smoother because they already feel successful. Consistency also becomes easier when you start practicing this habit. When you choose to face the hard thing every morning, you train your mind to be disciplined. Over time, your brain stops fighting it. It becomes a normal part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth or having breakfast. And the more consistent you are, the more stable and confident you feel in your daily life. You are no longer controlled by fear, laziness, or confusion. Instead, you guide your day with purpose. Take a moment to imagine how your day would change if you did the hardest task first. Imagine waking up, finishing the thing you usually avoid, and feeling that wave of relief and pride. Imagine going through the day without the constant pressure of unfinished work. Imagine feeling free in your mind because the biggest stress is already behind you. When you end the day, you would feel proud, not guilty. You would feel like you are growing step by step, becoming stronger and more capable each week. This emotional transformation matters just as much as productivity. When you choose to do the hard things first, you are choosing a life with more confidence, more freedom, and more positive energy. You are choosing a life where you trust yourself, where you take action early, and where each small success builds a powerful momentum that carries you forward. Personal anecdote. Relatable storytelling. Let me share a small story from my own life. Something simple, but very real. I think it will help you understand how doing the hard things first can change the way you feel, even in everyday situations. A few years ago, when I was still studying, I had a university assignment that looked extremely difficult. It wasn't the type of assignment you could finish in one night. It required reading, writing, researching, thinking. Basically, everything that felt heavy. So, like many people, I told myself, I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow became the next day, and the next day became the next week. I kept avoiding it because the assignment felt too big, and I didn't want to feel uncomfortable or stressed. During that time, I noticed something strange. Even though I wasn't working on the assignment, it was always in the back of my mind. I thought about it while eating, while walking, while trying to relax, even while sleeping. It felt like a small stone in my shoe. Annoying, distracting, impossible to ignore. And the more I avoided it, the heavier that stone felt. I wasn't afraid of the work itself. I was afraid of starting. I was afraid that maybe it would be too difficult, or maybe I wouldn't do a good job. This is the moment many of us meet perfectionism and self-doubt without even noticing. One morning, after weeks of carrying that stress, I decided to try something different. I told myself, okay, I won't finish the whole assignment today. I'll just work on it for 20 minutes. That's it. No pressure. So I made a cup of tea, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began reading the first page. At first, I felt uncomfortable. My mind was trying to escape. I wanted to check my phone, look out the window, or suddenly clean my room. Anything but continue the assignment. but I pushed myself gently. I said, "Just a few more minutes. Keep going." Something interesting happened after about 10 or 15 minutes. The discomfort slowly disappeared. My brain became more focused. The work didn't feel scary anymore. It felt possible. And when my 20 minutes finished, I realized I was actually enjoying the progress I was making. I didn't stop. I continued for another 20 minutes. Then another. By the end of the morning, I had finished almost half the assignment. And the funny thing is, I spent more energy avoiding the work than actually doing it. That evening, I felt an amazing sense of relief, almost like taking a deep breath after holding it for too long. The heavy feeling in my chest was gone. I didn't feel guilty anymore. I didn't feel stressed. I felt free. That one morning taught me something that no teacher or book had ever told me so clearly. The hardest part is not the work. The hardest part is starting. Once you begin, your mind adjusts, your fear becomes smaller, and your confidence becomes stronger. This experience stayed with me for years. It changed the way I approached difficult tasks. Whenever something feels too big or too uncomfortable, I remember that morning. I remind myself that the feeling of hesitation is temporary, but the feeling of progress stays with me all day. And most importantly, I learned that facing the hard thing early gives you peace later. Maybe you've had a similar experience in your life. Maybe you've avoided a conversation, a health habit, a work project, or even learning English because it felt too difficult. But once you finally started, you probably felt lighter, calmer, and more proud of yourself. The universal lesson is simple. The fear before the task is always bigger than the task itself. When you start, you grow. When you avoid, you stay stuck. And doing the hard thing first turns stress into strength. Simple strategies to start with the hard things. When we talk about doing the hard things first, it can sound simple in theory, but in real life it is not always easy. Many people know what they should do, but they still struggle to start. That's why having practical strategies is so important. These tools help us take the first step, reduce stress, and create small wins that build confidence over time. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to make progress in a way that feels realistic and manageable. So let's look at a few simple strategies that can help anyone begin with the hard tasks, even on a busy or tired day. One of the most useful tools is the 10-minute rule. This rule is very simple. You tell yourself that you will work on the hard task for just 10 minutes. Not 1 hour, not half an hour. Only 10 minutes. The idea behind this rule is that starting is often the most difficult part. Once you begin, the mind slowly relaxes and the task feels less scary. Many people discover that after 10 minutes, they naturally want to continue. But even if you stop after 10 minutes, you still win because you made progress. You showed your brain that the task is not impossible. This rule works well for studying English, cleaning a room, reading emails, or working on a project you keep avoiding. Another helpful tool is time blocking. This means choosing a specific time in your day to focus on your important task. For example, you could decide that from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., you will only work on your hardest task. No messages, no social media, no multitasking. You create a small, protected space where your attention is safe. When we block time like this, our mind becomes more focused because it knows what to expect. Time blocking is especially helpful for people who feel overwhelmed or have many responsibilities. It creates structure, and structure brings calm. Reducing distractions is also a powerful strategy. Many times, The hard task feels harder because our mind is half focused on something else. Notifications, open tabs, background noise, or even the phone on the table can pull our attention away. A small change, such as putting your phone in another room, closing unnecessary apps, or working in a quieter space, can make a big difference. When we limit distractions, we give ourselves the space to think clearly, and clarity makes the hard task less stressful. Another simple but effective strategy is setting clear priorities. Sometimes the reason we avoid hard tasks is that everything feels important at the same time. We don't know what to do first, so we do nothing. But when we choose our top 1 or 2 priorities for the day, the decision becomes easier. You can ask yourself, if I only complete one important thing today, which one will make me feel proud or peaceful? That task becomes your focus. Clear priorities help us avoid confusion and make sure our energy goes to the right places. Finally, we should not ignore the power of rewarding ourselves. Humans respond to positive reinforcement. When we complete something difficult, it feels good to celebrate, even in a small way. The reward does not need to be big. It could be a short break, a walk, a cup of tea, a few minutes of music, or simply the moment of telling yourself, "Well done, I did it." These rewards create a positive connection in the mind. Hard things lead to good feelings. And when your brain learns this connection, it becomes easier to start the next hard task tomorrow. All these strategies are simple, but they are powerful when used consistently. They work because they support you instead of judging you. They guide you instead of pushing you. And they remind you that progress begins with one small, realistic step. The goal here is not to change your life in one day, but to create habits that help you grow stronger, more focused, and more confident. One hard task at a time. Common problems and how to solve them. When we try to do the hard things first, we all face problems. It is completely normal. No matter how motivated or organized we are, there are days when fear, laziness, distraction, or confusion stops us from even taking the first step. Understanding these problems and knowing simple ways to deal with them can make the whole process easier and much less stressful. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need tools that help you move forward, even slowly. One of the most common problems is feeling afraid of a big task. Fear makes the task look larger than it really is. Sometimes we imagine failure before we even start. We worry that we will do it wrong, or that people will judge us, or that we are not ready. This fear is strong, but the solution is very simple. Make the task smaller. When you break a big job into the smallest possible step, the fear becomes weaker. For example, instead of thinking, "I have to finish the whole assignment," tell yourself, "I will write the first sentence." Instead of, "I must study English for 1 hour," say, "I will study for 10 minutes." The moment you take a small action, the fear loses its power. Another problem people face is feeling lazy or slow. This feeling is common when we don't have enough sleep, when our mind is tired, or when we feel emotionally low. Laziness does not mean you are weak. It simply means your energy is low. A good solution is to give yourself a soft start. Tell yourself, "I will work on this task for just 5 minutes." This tiny commitment is easy, and it helps you warm up. Once your brain starts moving, you often continue longer without forcing yourself. You can also try a very gentle reward system. After finishing a small step, give yourself a short break, a stretch, or a small snack. These small rewards make the brain more willing to continue. Distraction is another big challenge, especially in today's world with phones, notifications, noise, and many responsibilities. Even the smallest distraction can break your focus and make a hard task feel 10 times harder. To solve this, make your environment a little more focus-friendly. Put your phone in another room, use headphones if there is noise, close extra tabs on your computer, and work in a clean space. You do not need a perfect environment. Just make it a little easier for your mind to stay with the task. Some people also find it helpful to use a timer, because the timer gives the brain a clear message. Only focus for a short time. Another common problem is not knowing where to start. This is especially true when the task is new or complicated. The mind looks at the big picture and feels confused. The best solution is to ask yourself one simple question. What is the first tiny step? That first step could be opening a document, writing a title, reading the instructions, or watching the first few minutes of a lesson. Once you take that first micro step, the second step becomes clearer. The beginning is always the hardest part, but once you start, the task begins to make sense. Sometimes, people avoid hard tasks because they expect themselves to be perfect. Perfectionism makes everything feel heavier. If you expect perfect results, you stop yourself before you even begin. The simple solution is to switch your mindset from perfect to progress. Tell yourself, I don't need to finish perfectly, I just need to make progress today. This simple sentence takes away a lot of pressure and allows you to start without fear. And finally, remember that these problems happen to everyone. You are not alone, and you are not failing. You are learning a new habit, and every new habit takes time. The important thing is to understand your challenges and use small, realistic solutions. Break the task down. Reduce distractions. Start small, reward your effort. Focus on progress. These small steps build confidence and help you face bigger challenges in the future. Doing the hard things first is not about being strong all the time. It is about learning how your mind works and giving yourself the tools to move forward. With each small win, you will notice that tasks feel easier, your days feel lighter, and your confidence grows naturally. Now let's focus on some other common setbacks that almost everyone faces when trying to do the hard things first, and how to overcome them in a simple, realistic way. One of the biggest problems is perfectionism. Many people wait for the perfect time, the perfect mood, or the perfect plan before starting a difficult task. But perfectionism is just another way of avoiding action. It creates stress and makes the task feel bigger than it actually is. The truth is, it's okay to start small. Even 2 minutes of effort is better than waiting for the perfect moment. Progress beats perfection every single time. When you begin, even if your start is small or imperfect, you break the mental wall that keeps you stuck. Another common setback is low energy. Some days you wake up tired, slow, or simply not in the mood to deal with anything difficult. That's normal. But low energy doesn't mean you cannot make progress. You don't need to feel amazing to begin. You only need to take the first small step. For example, if studying for 1 hour feels impossible, try 10 minutes. If cleaning your room feels heavy, clean just one corner. Small actions often create more energy. When you start, even with low motivation, your brain wakes up and begins to cooperate. Many people discover that after they do the first small part, they naturally want to continue. Lack of motivation is another setback that stops people from doing the hard things first. Motivation is not something you can depend on every day. It changes, it rises, and it falls. If you only work when you feel motivated, you will stay behind on the things that matter. That's why it is important to focus more on commitment than motivation. You can tell yourself, I don't need to be motivated to start. I just need to begin. This simple mindset can turn a slow morning into a productive one. And when you complete the task, motivation often appears afterward as a result of your action. Sometimes the problem is not the task at all. The real problem is the story you tell yourself about the task. You might say, it's too hard. It will take forever. Or, I always fail at this. These negative stories create fear and pressure before you even start. But most of the time, the task itself is not as difficult as your imagination makes it. When you sit down and work for a few minutes, you usually realize it's not as bad as you thought. Changing the story you tell yourself can help you move forward with more confidence and less stress. Another setback is feeling overwhelmed because the task seems too big. When something feels huge, our mind freezes. The solution is to break it into smaller steps. You don't climb a mountain in one jump, you climb it one small step at a time. When you divide the task, each part feels manageable. And when you complete the first small part, you feel more in control and more willing to continue. So as you listen to this, ask yourself a reflective question. What usually stops you? The task itself, or the story you tell yourself about it? Think about that deeply, because once you understand what holds you back, you can finally change it. And once you change your mindset, doing the hard things first becomes not only possible but surprisingly empowering. Practical examples of hard things in adult life. In adult life, we all face tasks that feel heavy, uncomfortable, or simply annoying. These are the hard things that we often try to avoid. Sometimes they are practical responsibilities, sometimes emotional challenges, and sometimes goals we truly care about, but still postpone. When we look closely, we realize that these difficult tasks appear in almost every part of our lives, from work to personal growth to daily routines. And even though they seem small, they shape the direction of our days and the quality of our lives. Let's begin with the everyday responsibilities. These are the tasks most people understand very well. Answering emails, returning phone calls, scheduling appointments, cleaning a messy space, or organizing something that has been chaotic for too long. These tasks do not always require a lot of time, but they demand mental energy. For many adults, writing an important email or making a difficult phone call feels stressful. Sometimes the stress comes from fear of saying the wrong thing. Sometimes it's simply the feeling of not wanting to deal with something serious right now. But when we delay these tasks, they stay in the back of our mind. They follow us through the day, creating quiet pressure that slowly grows heavier. And when we finally do them, we often realize they were much easier than we imagined. Then we have the personal growth tasks, which include the habits and skills we want to build to improve our lives. Studying English is a perfect example. Many learners want to improve, but they struggle to build a routine. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow, or I will study when I have more time. But tomorrow comes, and life gets busy again. Learning a language requires consistency, and consistency begins with doing the harder thing first. Maybe listening to a podcast instead of watching a movie, or practicing pronunciation instead of scrolling on your phone. These small, difficult choices add up. The same happens with exercising, budgeting, cooking healthier meals, or reading more. All these activities bring long-term benefits, but they do not always feel enjoyable in the moment. That is why many adults push them to the end of the day, when their energy is already low. We also face harder tasks in our professional life. These are the responsibilities that influence our careers and future opportunities. Presentations, deadlines, and skill development are common examples. Preparing for a presentation can feel scary. Writing a report can feel boring. Learning a new skill for your job can feel overwhelming. At work, the pressure is higher because we want to perform well, and we want others to respect our abilities. Sometimes, this pressure creates anxiety, and anxiety leads to procrastination. But the strange thing is, the longer we avoid the task, the more stressful it becomes. And yet, once we sit down and begin, the fear slowly decreases, and confidence slowly increases. When we look at these examples, daily responsibilities, personal growth, and professional tasks, we notice one important truth. Avoiding hard tasks does not make life easier, it only makes it heavier. And when we choose to do the difficult thing first, we take back control of our time and our mind. So, I want to ask you a simple, honest question. What is the one task you keep pushing to tomorrow? It might be a message you need to send, a lesson you want to study, a workout you want to start, or a conversation you've been avoiding. Think about that one thing. Imagine how light you will feel once it is done. Imagine the confidence that grows when you decide, I will not wait. I will do this first. This is how we build strength, not by doing easy things, but by facing the hard things with courage and clarity. And every time you choose to do the difficult task, you become a little stronger, a little more focused, and a little more proud of yourself. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to leave you with a quiet but powerful reminder. Doing the hard things first is not about being perfect. It is not about being strong every minute of the day. It is about choosing to take one small step in the right direction, even when it feels uncomfortable. When you face a difficult task early in your day, you show yourself that you are capable, that you are responsible, and that you can trust your own decisions. This builds a stronger version of you, one choice at a time. And little by little, those choices shape your habits, your confidence, and your future. Think for a moment about the past week. How many times did stress come from something you delayed? How many times did your mind feel heavy because a task kept following you, hour after hour? When you do the hard thing first, you remove that weight. You free your mind. You allow yourself to breathe more easily, to think more clearly, and to enjoy the rest of your day without guilt. It's a small act with a very big effect. It gives you the feeling of being in control of your life, instead of letting your day control you. And remember this, you do not need perfect motivation to begin. You do not need the perfect plan, the perfect mood, or the perfect moment. You only need the courage to start. Even a simple, small beginning can change the direction of your entire day. One small action can give you momentum, and that momentum can give you confidence. Confidence grows into discipline, and discipline creates results. This is how progress happens. Slow, steady, and honest. Before we finish, I want to ask you a final question, one that I hope stays with you long after this episode ends. What is one small hard thing you can do today that will make your tomorrow easier? Think about it. Say it out loud. Write it down. And then, when you wake up tomorrow, begin with that one thing. Don't wait. Don't overthink it. Just start. Even if it is for a few minutes, you might be surprised by how good you feel afterward. Thank you for spending your time with me today on Code Your English. I hope this episode helped you understand yourself a little better and encouraged you to take more control of your day. If you found this helpful, keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. You deserve a life that feels lighter, clearer, and more intentional. And doing the hard things first is one simple way to create that life. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving forward, one strong step at a time.